Hey, this is Pat Ricard, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
It's pretty incredible. In fact, it's la-marvelous.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. It is Monday, November 23rd. And the Baltimore Ravens have been hit with a case of the good old Murphy's Law.
What goes around comes around, comes around, goes all the way back around.
What a shitty song. What a shitty life we're living right now. What's going on?
That is not a shitty song. Don't get me started on JT.
I love me some JT. You know this. Nobody loves JT more than me. But I'm not in that.
Nobody loves Mr. Timberlake more than me.
That scene in The Social Network when he walks into the dinner situation and he's just absolutely alphaing the dinner over Mark and Eduardo. I had a situation just like that. It was the inspiration for me writing the
Whose rooster was that? Who cares about a rooster? It's just a chicken. Who cares if it eats its own kind?
Eduardo, it's cannibalism. What are you doing? Yeah,
All
okay.
right.
We're doing a lot here. It's Monday, November 23rd.
It's going to be a weird one.
Maybe a little bit of breaking news on your, proclivities maybe coming out just before us recording this, as I posted on Twitter from our Slack chat. So, there's a lot to unpack right now.
Let's unpack it. Let's open this suitcase of worms.
I think we have to start. I mean, we were going to give me 1 second. Actually, I got to close my door here. This is great radio.
High quality. Luke Wilson, baby. Truzin Sneed, fellas. Can we start bashing little man Jet yet? Some comments coming in.
So we wanted to record last night. You had some work stuff going on scheduling wise, so we decided to just push it. So we wanted this episode to be mainly game recap. We have plenty of content to get to for that as far as listener questions coming in on Twitter. I think we got the most we've ever gotten on Twitter. It's like 20 plus. So we'll get around to those, but we did have coming out this morning. I guess we should just start with this. Our buddy Barstool Banks coming out with the news that the Ravens had a COVID situation kind of brewing. They shut down their facility. It did come out later that it was Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, and 2 staffers not on the coaching staff within the building, so they shut it down. Brandon Williams, the one player deemed a close contact, high-risk type player. So Ravens are – it sounds like they're going to be going into this Thursday game, which is very much on by the sound of it against the Steelers, down their 2 starting running backs, and Brandon Williams, who was already in question to play, definitely not going to be. So just starting off with the COVID talk.
Yeah, it is coming in heaps and bunches, and it's adversity that the Ravens seemed to handle last year with some more vets and some better health. But at this point, you can make as many excuses as you want. At the end of the day, you've got to go make plays. And the Ravens coaching staff needs to, I think, do a little less with so much influx with guys like Tramon Williams, Luke Wilson, all the rookies that are playing right now. Just ask a little less from them. Make things simple. As Baldy loves to say, keep it simple, stud. Let's get them in some, flow of baseline assignments. Let some guys stay on the field, catch some rhythm. Do a little bit less. Less is more, in the words of Paul Rudd in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Do less.
Yeah, do less. I'm Paul Rudd. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because it's going to really pare things down, and I think it is going to be forcing them to throw it a little bit more. We do have some stuff coming out about how Luke Wilson is looking good, picking up the playbook. I think he was active on Sunday, didn't really play much. We saw Dez getting going. Made some pretty nice plays after the catch. He was getting like 20 yards of cushion, so you would hope so, but he would catch it and make a big time effort every time he got the ball in his hands, including a crucial sort of fire drill catch we were chopping up earlier on the Ravens' second to last drive, really their kind of crucial drive that wound up going into overtime. He kind of made a nice little catch and run to convert, I think, what was a third down. So liked what I saw from Dez, and they're going to need him. They're going to need, I think, Wilson to step up a little bit. They're going to need Andrews to continue a good run of form. I think he looked really good on Sunday. They're down to the absolute brass tacks as far as the running game goes. So it's, time to crank it up in the passing game or shut up. And I don't know. This is looking like a tough game on Thursday. We're obviously going to get to it, but they're absolutely down to the scraps as far as the cupboard goes. That is the roster.
Yeah, it's difficult because the Ravens ran the ball so well against Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, well over 200 yards, just around 200 yards, I believe, and average well over 5 yards a carry. And we're able to consistently get pushed without Dobbins, without Ingram now. See what Justice Hill can do. Let's see what Gus Edwards can do. That's the benefit of the Ravens having the 4 running backs that are all kind of apt and able. So that's encouraging, but at the same time, like let's open this passing game up. Let's see the Ravens open it up. It's time. Lamar Jackson had 29 pass attempts, and I think he was sacked once, maybe scrambled 2-3 times, not a ton. So maybe 33 dropbacks. Let him keep dropping back, man. Let's see if this offense get in sync. Like I said, get some more fundamental route concepts going. We talked about it last week. We saw some of them. We saw the intersecting routes that led to a Mark Andrews touchdown and some of those things. And Lamar threw the ball outside the numbers a lot. That's what defenses beg. They essentially beg for Lamar Jackson to do. And with Dez coming in, getting those little quick throws, just snap the ball, throw it to him. Like that's like something out of Madden, but at the same time, it's just practical, quick yards. If you can make that the 4-yard gain, the 5-yard gain, if he makes one guy miss, gets a first down, just makes defenses have to respect the boundary. And they don't right now. So at this point, Dez was really encouraging for me. Hollywood, Hollywood is tough right now. He's definitely in a funk. There's no denying he's catching a lot of criticism from the Ravens fan base and everything, but the guy just can't catch a break or catch a pass when it's easy sometimes, man. It's just one of those funks right now, and they need to do something to break it open. The one throw where Lamar Jackson is just late, and that's really been my biggest problem with Lamar so far, or I guess not so far, but lately, is just being late, being a little hesitant, and I think that it comes from him not trusting the offensive line. Last week we talked about that Urban Meyer quote about, once you get to this level of football, of course, when you have a bunch of guys injured, you can talk about that, but at the end of the day, it's all about trust. It's all about trusting your guys to execute, trusting your offensive line to block for you, hanging in the pocket, getting the ball out quick and in rhythm. And my assignment today for SIS was doing the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots and Texans. And a guy that, I look at that is just maybe a year ahead of Lamar. And I don't want to say they're terribly similar players. I think Deshaun Watson is one of the best deep ball throwers in the entire NFL, and I would definitely not say that about Lamar. But in terms of what they're able to do and the playmaking ability and kind of the moxie that they bring, Deshaun Watson's getting the ball out fast, and he's just saying fuck it and ripping some real ropes to his receivers. And maybe the Texans receivers are a little more talented, whatever. It doesn't even matter, because at the end of the day, if you're not willing to give your guys a chance to go win, then you're not going to win, and you're going to be late on throws. He misses Hollywood. That was the original point. He misses Marquise Brown in the back of the end zone, who doesn't make a play on the ball and gets the pass broken up, doesn't get a PI, anything. It was good coverage. It was a good recovery. But, I mean, Lamar's got to throw that on the cut. You have to throw on the break of the route.
You had that one. You had the one late to Andrews as well. That it was a tougher throw, I think, to Andrews, but he also kind of double clutched on that one. And
it was the clutch. It was the same thing. The double clutch has bit Lamar the last 2 times they've played the Titans. In the playoffs, he triple clutched and ended up getting strip sacked, losing the ball inside his own red zone. And the Titans take the ball there and basically ice the game with a touchdown there. And then again, late in the game with Andrews, I don't know if he was looking to Snead underneath or what was going on, but if he was looking to Andrews, you see him just with that hesitation, raise his arm, put it back down. And by that time, the angle's off. Lamar's feet aren't aimed towards Andrews. the angle is done. And it would have required some impossible. We saw CeeDee Lamb make a really crazy catch adjusting back to the ball. It would have required something like that from Andrews. And I mean, that would have been fantastic, but you have to just have faith and let it rip at this point. They're relying on him too. And I think there are tons of excuses that you can make. The offensive line, maybe as one guy that would start around the NFL and Orlando Brown. I don't think any of the other offensive linemen are really going to go be a 100% starter on most teams. But what do you need to do to compensate for that? What did Tom Brady do last year when their entire offensive line was out? Get the ball out. You don't have another choice. And I think at this point, that's been his one area of concern, is just a little bit of hesitation. I think he likes to be a, don't turn the ball over kind of quarterback, ends up throwing a pick in this game. I don't think that was, an egregious interception or anything of the sort, but there was just some late throws and some missed stuff. And tying back to Hollywood, it's like the mojo is at an all-time low. Like, the football gods are against him. The bad breaks are coming. That drop, I mean, he's had 2 drops in the last couple games, but Oklahoma all the way through, he's been a fine hands catcher, and they were off of his hands. It's not like he's letting it into his body. And I think a lot of it is just timing and that rhythm being off, and trying to make a play before the plays happen, and they need to slow it down. I think a lot of it ultimately boils down to Roman and maybe keeping your best 11 on the field for a drive or two, and not really subbing so much and using some tempo. Again, we still haven't seen tempo. Rarely. It only happens in the 2-minute drill. Change it up. Keep some guys on the field. Let them go catch a rhythm. And, there's no sort of statistical background for me to say that and say go do that because you X EPA on so-and-so and so forth, but it's too much for these rookies and these backup players to be having these, intermissions after plays where they have to sweep and change the stage and put on a new wig and get back out on the stage. Like, J.K. Dobbins is pissed. He wanted to stay on the field. They end up rolling with him. And I love the fact that was J.K. Dobbins' attitude, because there's no fight. Like, there's no fight. There's just confusion, and it's off. And ultimately the Ravens ended up having a 21-10 lead, and they just don't have that killer instinct, man. They really don't offensively. That's why I kind of like the deep shot out of Lamar, but then Duvernay doesn't have killer instinct. And was that a good throw, a good decision? No, it was not. You can check down. And again, I'm watching the Texans against the Patriots. The Texans have a lead late in that game. Deshaun Watson is checking down. What does Tom Brady do late in games? Check into runs and check down. Like, the check down is the missing element still from this offense. And on the final drive, the thing is, Lamar has led them on some good scoring drives the last couple of weeks, using his arm, doing those kinds of things. The check down to Des Bryant, that whole drive, he was making good decisions, gets them down the field. They end up fucking snapping the ball early. God damn it. And, in the end, they end up going to overtime. They can't punch it in. They struggle to punch it in. And then the play calling to start overtime was just like, you're stoned playing Madden and don't care. Like, there was 10 minutes before by the time when the Ravens kicked the field goal until overtime started, there had to be 10 real minutes, I would guess, somewhere around there. Maybe it was 8, maybe it was 12, whatever, where Greg Roman is sitting up in the box, and his grandmaster scheme is to come out, use a basic run concept, get no yards, and then call a play action. And it's like, why in God's name would the Titans linebackers or DBs respect a play action on 2nd and long in fucking overtime? They don't care if you run for a first down at that point. Like, the rushing stuff doesn't matter. And running on first down, I'm going to try this week when I get a day off. I'm going to try and look at how many drives convert first downs and end up in points if they start with a play action. And the Titans are like the leveled up, they're like the enlightened brain version of the Ravens. They use the play action on first down, and then they slam Henry downhill on a basic concept. And they had backup offensive linemen in too. So, they kept it simple. They keep it simple when they're struggling, when their guys are out. They don't have Humphreys. They don't have Luan. They don't have Saffold. Jonnu Smith gets banged up in this game. Ben Jones comes out at one point, and they kept it simple. They stuck to a plan, and it just feels like there isn't enough of one. And at this point, the Ravens are so many people have said it, but when they do have these scoring drives, it's so difficult. It is so difficult. It requires so much stress and, special playmaking and tight window throws and making guys miss. It's just too difficult right now. So in the end, stop subbing so much, push the tempo a little bit, stick the guys who know the offense on the field, and let them stay there.
So what is the issue? Jumping into the Twitter questions, our first one kind of lines up perfectly with that. Rare Form, a.k.a. Big Body Ron. Why does Roman refuse to use play action and rollouts with Lamar?
He's a play action quarterback. I mean, his rating on play action has been consistently over 100. His QBR in play action is consistently top 10 in the NFL as well. His EPA on play action is higher. And for a team that is so hashtag analytically driven, hashtag cutting edge, that is like rule number one of being an analytically driven team is that you don't fucking run the ball on first down that much. You use play action.
Play action, yeah.
Because the threat of the run is there on first down. Does that mean you don't run on first down? No, you need to sometimes. And that's fine. It happens. But mix it up, man. We talked about it. We've written about it. And if you want to be a team that has, the guys at Barstool like to make the joke about the analytics guy, his name, Daniel Stern. Like, if you're this sporty, cool, modern,
cutting edge,
yeah, top of the line, 2020 modern franchise using Moneyball, then why the fuck aren't you running play action on first down? They're getting behind in these situations, and just even more so because the run game is not like that. Like, they aren't the same guys that can bull you off the ball. You don't have Yonda. You don't have Stanley. Skura is out. You've got Will Holden and DJ Fluker rotating. Ben Powers in his first start. And, Bozeman, I think, is a solid player who had a really good stretch, but he's not, he's solid. He's doing his job. He's executing, but he is not dominating out there. You have no presence in the interior offensive line, and you're not running end arounds or these jet sweeps as much or any of these things that can kind of take advantage of defenses really crowding the box. So you're basically just asking a ragtag group of offensive linemen who aren't high draft picks. They're not paid a lot of money to go outperform guys that are, to go beat up Jeffrey Simmons and, beat up on the Colts offensive line in the first half of that game. And DeForest Buckner had his way with him. He, took him out to a nice seafood dinner and never called him again. So at this point, Roman is really at the brink of I get what he loves. I get what he wants to do. We've also seen these plays exist within this offense. Like, it's not like they need to go back to the drawing board and have a midseason, shake up of the playbook. Like, we know it exists in the playbook. We've seen all of these things, but it's just being kept into these rhythms of things that aren't necessarily successful in any large sample size. So what do you want to do here? Like, do you want to keep the definition of insanity, the classic quote, is doing the same thing, running on first down over and over again and expecting a different result? Mark Ingram, I bitched about him running on first down. When he is in the game on 1st and 10, he gets the ball on basic inside concepts like inside zone or power or lead and gets stuffed. And then you're in 2nd and long. You don't have a good offensive line to pass block. The threat of play action is gone, and you're behind the 8 ball. So it's going to reach a point. Like, I understand if they lose to the Steelers, I don't think anybody would be surprised. I don't think anybody would be, disappointed or not understand why that happens. You're sitting at 6-5 if that's the case. And then from there on out, I think if Greg Roman keeps kind of being stubborn in these regards, and I don't know if there's someone in it, we don't know if there's conversations happening between Harbaugh and Culley and Roman and whoever, but if he can't even come to these conclusions himself, then he shouldn't be the offensive coordinator moving forward. It's just at this point, like, you can't bully ball. You can't impose your will. You don't have the offensive line to do it. You don't have Nick Boyle. So air the fucking ball out, man.
Yeah, so I guess that leads right into it's not sequential order, but I think the very next one after the next one is Z Hop 1, 2, 3. Do you think Greg Roman is on the hot seat? I personally want us to look at Mike McDaniel, the run coordinator from the 49ers. I mean, like, I don't know if I'd say he is quite yet. I think you want to at least give him that stretch, like you mentioned. And like, as much as there is the angst going around about it, and even to some degree people with Harbaugh a little bit, which I think is ridiculous, but whatever. This organization, you're talking about an organization that after 2017 did not fire Marty Mornhinweg. And I think they had given Tressman another chance. This is a guy that has put a lot of good stuff on tape, but also you do have to weigh the fact that the clock is ticking with Lamar's rookie contract a little bit. So if you find a spot to upgrade, maybe you should. I'm just saying I expect them to have a little bit of patience with him. But yeah, I think that final stretch against games that should theoretically be winnable, I think those are going to be crucial to that question. As far as Mike McDaniel, I don't really know the guy all that well. Seems like he's doing a good job there with that Kyle Shanahan offense, but I kind of feel like Kyle Shanahan is maybe a big factor in that. You keep mentioning Joe Brady. He's not going to make a lateral move, obviously, but maybe some Carolina staff because I mean, if you're running PJ Walker out there and like winning a game, like maybe that's worth looking at. I don't want them to, if they do fire him, I don't want them to do the internal.
Joe Brady just puts DBs in conflict. He puts certain defenders in conflict, and it is just force reads everywhere. And it is the quintessential bare bones of how to beat a defense is to put one player, a force player, and force them to make a decision and then do the opposite. And he does that better than anyone else. And I'm very envious of them having that in Carolina. He's a young guy who ended up getting scooped up. No one would have wanted Roman gone after last year's success. So it's, you can't say, I wish they would have, dumped Roman.
They knew about him. Wink Martindale said, I'm hiring this guy as my offensive coordinator if I get a head coaching job. So, I mean, that he was a hot property big time, which is, it is kind of unfortunate timing a little bit, but I'm willing to give Roman some time to turn it around, but conversations probably do need to start being had.
There has to be some sort of spine from Harbaugh in some way. And this team overall, that is one minor aspect of it. But this team is spineless. I mean, it shows in their play. It shows in their attitude. It shows in the way that they don't tackle. They don't finish plays. There's how many guys are finishers right now?
He's like in his mid-50s to run out and get in a jawing match with Malcolm Butler, and like nobody's backing him up. That's
apparently everyone was in the tunnel in the locker room already. So apparently it was just Harbaugh. There's no way Pat Ricard's not running over there and trying. I was
going to say that was kind of a bizarre scene because I expected at least like one player, but yeah, that makes sense if they're away. And then Lamar obviously did kind of throw a bow into Butler after he threw that touchdown pass, which was sick, but win the game.
That was pretty sick. But yeah, this team is spineless. I mean, what do you need to spark you at this point? And this is a statement from Mark Andrews, and I don't like to talk about I don't like to read too much into comments, and I really hate trying to like
it's sports talk.
Determine what someone was talking about, but this isn't like that. Mark Andrews said, our backs are against the wall. We have a lot of high character guys on this team that are going to fight. Are they going to fight? It doesn't feel like they have a lot of guys that are, as Vaz likes to say, back alley guys, like dark alley guys. They don't have the brawlers. I don't want these high character guys. I want some badasses. I want guys that finish plays. Deshaun Elliott finishes plays when he has the chance. Mark Andrews, I think, is a finisher too. I think that Pat Ricard is. I think Orlando Brown is. I think Des Bryant is probably that way. But he didn't finish. He got bitched in the red zone and ends up letting up the game-tying touchdown.
Yeah, his play.
Marlon Humphrey, Chuck Clark, and Patrick Queen were spineless in the second half. Those four were getting picked on, toyed with, beaten, and broken all second half. And I'm willing to take my lumps on Patrick Queen right now. He is not playing well at all, is lost. And the most demoralizing part of that play for me was not, the result. It was just seeing A.J. Brown next to Patrick Queen and realizing how much bigger and stronger A.J. Brown is than your starting Mike linebacker. And, Devin White is about the same size as Queen. There's other guys in the NFL, but there is no finisher right now. There is no There is no enforcer on that defense, and it hurts. It hurts that there's not, the Ravens identity for so long that I think Ravens fans pride themselves on. When you even hear it on when you're listening to, BS ESPN stuff, they're like, the Ravens run the ball and hit you in the mouth. That's been their identity for 25 years, 20 years. That's not what it is right now. And I don't know where it's supposed to come from, but at this point, I don't know what you're going to do to inspire that mid-season. I think I'll let you go in 1 second, but I think you were very right. I mean, Marlon Humphrey has not integrated and looked good. He takes off from COVID. I don't know if he's sick. I don't know if, just the mess up of his routine and flow messed him up, but it is what it is. He had a bad game. He got beat. I mean, he got beat bad to start that game. He got smoked to start that game. Marcus Peters, a guy that has been kind of a badass at times, picked on, toyed with, taken advantage of.
And his overall track record as like a personality, as a guy who's not going to back down from a fight.
Oh, no, definitely not. He'll come off the sideline and get a 15-yard penalty with his helmet off trying to fight for, Lamar a couple weeks ago. But that's all good and dandy. The words are fun. The calling people names, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you can't put the other team on their ass, it's all words. And people are commenting, Elliott, Deshaun was lighting stuff up. Elliott missed some tackles, man. He missed some tackles too. He had that big hit on Henry. That was kick-ass. That was sweet.
He was going for those big hits to the point that you're going to miss some. Like, if you try to do the hit stick in Madden, like, it's going to backfire on you sometimes because you miss. Like, that's just kind of the way that thing works. So if you're not, like, just consistently squaring up and squashing the bug and you're just going for that home run every single time, you're going to miss a few. You're going to strike out, which, it did happen. He did have some highlight-worthy plays when he hit Derrick Henry like that. I said some things that I'm not especially proud of as a 25-year-old man, but gave me a lot of joy. And he's a fun player to watch. He's coming into his own and has done better this season than I was expecting from him. But we don't have to all of a sudden crown him as the next Ronnie Lott.
Yeah, he's always been a hitter. I mean, he always has Texas preseason time when he had action, special teams limited when he was healthy. I think, he's definitely a hitter. He does have that attitude. He is fearless. And he has a spine, and he's willing to break it to go break someone else's. So that's what you need. Pat Ricard, I mean, that Pat Ricard was playing ball. This was one of his best games, in my opinion. He was kicking ass and taking names as a run blocker, smoked somebody early in the first quarter. He was rumbling on that little goal line boot or whatever it was to him on that kicked the ball out. He almost scored a touchdown. He was an inch shy. He deserved that one. And I think they just need to, long story short, this whole character thing, this whole high character thing, you got a bunch of nice guys. You got a bunch of hard workers. I want some badasses, man. I want guys that back up their talk and aren't worried about what their abs look like and their Instagram is about. I want guys that finish plays and play goddamn football.
Are there guys like that right now, though?
Jonathan Abram, Bobby Wagner, Jeffrey freaking Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons spitting Yonda's face. Like, there are dudes. Aaron Donald is a bad man. TJ Watt plays with animosity. The Steelers defense is really everything that you would want the Ravens defense to be attitude-wise, and in that vein where they have, Cam Hayward, who hustles his ass off to the sideline.
Ravens tried to sign Snacks Harrison today, but he will be going to the Seahawks active roster. He's a guy like that, but
that means that Justin Ellis is done. And the fact that you have a nose guard that does not occupy double teams and doesn't require a double team, Justin Ellis is not it at this point. He is not a high enough level backup in case something happens to Brandon Williams. And without Brandon Williams for 2 games, it's a lot easier to criticize a linebacker like I did about Patrick Queen and we could about Malik Harrison when there's guards in their face. Linebackers don't beat guards consistently. You hope that you have the big guys in the middle. I mean, Ray Lewis was not playing his best football of his career and asked for Haloti Ngata and then looked like he was in prime form again about 10 years into his career. If you want linebackers to play well, you got to keep them clean unless it's, Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, I mean, like CJ Mosley had Haloti Ngata in front of him to start his career, and then play started to dip off a little bit after he left. So, I mean, that kind of stuff does help. And I think my original point that I was going to make was like, that whole idea of like having guys that are going to step up and be the voice and be the badass and getting guys asked when they need to is like, That's what they had Calais Campbell for. He's like the only tenured guy on this defense right now that has seen
McPhee,
shit.
too. I think McPhee is that way, and Judon, and Ngakoue. Well, all the edges. The edges are good, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, more just like a guy who's, and I mean, I guess McPhee has as well, but like a guy who's been in AFC Championship games and is a discernibly, like, you can look at that guy and be like, this guy is like the leader of this defense. That's who he is and what he is. And I think like you can't overstate. And I know like Voss is kind of, you know, the veteran leadership is overrated. It probably is to a degree, but I think when you're, you know, in the middle of an absence of it, you really start to notice it, kind of like Rundy with Brandon Williams. It's like, it's easy to rag on his contract. And I think there are many well taken sort of points about that. But when he's missing, man, it just fucking, you can feel it. It's demoralizing to get run on like that. But moving on, Seth Gutman. Will the Ravens ever get a homegrown, bona fide wide receiver one within the next 20 years? At this point, I just think we're cursed. Tylan Wallace or Seth Williams, please. No, they're cursed. They're never going to get one. I'm convinced. It's over. It's not going to happen.
They had to go trade for Anquan Bolden. Like, they had to go get one. There's something in the water in Baltimore. Crabs and wide receivers. You know, crabs stunt the growth of wide receivers.
That's what Baltimore does in the draft.
Yes. So there are guys. I mean, Justin Jefferson, none of those guys slipped. T. Higgins, I mean, you can say T. Higgins at this point could have been a better option than Patrick Queen, sure, whatever. But
the people that are on Twitter talking about Jefferson, it's like, I would have loved him too. But guys, he went 6 picks before them. Like, they can't just get all these guys that easily. Like, I wish it was that easy, and sometimes it is, but it just didn't really fall that way this year.
Right. And I don't think it's the receivers necessarily. I think it's the orchestration of the pass game as a whole. It's not on rhythm. There's missed beats. There's landmarks that don't make sense. They run everything over the middle of the field and play inside out. And it makes sense. But at the end of the day, in the NFL, you got to be able to throw outside. Like Allen Robinson, everyone's going to want. Allen Robinson's going to get $95 million. And the Ravens, you know, could do that. Yeah, they could absolutely do that. But that, to me, is not the issue. That's not the root of the issue. The root of the issue is the construction of the passing game. I guarantee if you took Hollywood Brown and put him in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey, he would be getting open, catching balls, finding space, having rub routes that get him open, quick passes that take advantage of leverage, all that shit. And instead, there's all these long developing routes. You don't have a good offensive line. Your quarterback is, you know, clearly late a little bit. So speed him up and get him early. And if, you know, you throw some interceptions, fucking do it, because at this point you're still losing. So go down swinging instead of playing ticky-tacky stuff when you can't play defense. And it's like I said, they're not all bad. We saw the quick hitters. I don't recall screens necessarily. I haven't really done a rewatch yet. I'll get into it and get into it on Twitter with things I see. The Des Bryant throws were not screens. Screen is when you have blockers out in front of someone. That was just them playing 8 yards off the ball and Lamar firing the ball over there.
Throw it to him on like a quick shot, and he just like gains a couple of yards, which to his credit, I mean, like that's easier said than done when you haven't
do that every single time. If you, I swear to God, since I've been 10 years old, if a DB is 10 yards off the ball and there's no hook defender over there, throw them the ball and let them get 4 yards or something. They might get 10. They might take it to the house. Who knows? I'm baffled at when that happens. It blows my mind.
Why does Lamar seem to be on a different page than his receivers on the touch throws? Why isn't LJ and Brown's off the field chemistry translating to the field? And will Dez start to see more snaps over Boykin?
Like I said, I think it's because Lamar's late sometimes, and I think that he doesn't want to turn the ball over. He's very wary of those turnovers, of, you know, throwing the quote unquote bad interceptions and stuff underneath. So defenses are kind of stacking the box underneath, and there's just a funk right now with him in Hollywood. They're in a cold spell, and they need to get it kickstarted. Hopefully, just letting loose on some of those balls, some of those deep seam balls, and putting some air on it and getting it out earlier. At this, you know, Lamar's got to be kicking himself over. He had basically 3 missed opportunities. The Andrews touchdown that Of course, Andrews could have fought for the ball more and come back to it, but it was a late throw. You got to get it out. When the DB has his back turned, you throw the ball. As soon as you realize, and Lamar knows that. I mean, that's not new to him. He lit the Rams up last year with leverage and understanding when they had guys that had to trail and go try and defend the receiver and weren't able to cut it off. And it's just not there right now. But at this point, I'm encouraged by the passing offense over the last couple of weeks. I think that it just needs to get dialed up more, and they need to push the tempo. I think that tempo will fix rhythm, that getting to the line, cutting the shit out. The play call system, I still hate, and it's not going to go anywhere with Roman phoning down from the booth to tell Lamar to check his wristband. And it feels like the amount of time that it takes where Lamar is looking down at his wristband, waiting for the play, and then discerning how, there's got to be a little mini Bible on there. He has to find it. And I swear to God, man, just get to the line, call simple stuff, get to the line, call 2 plays in a row, push the pace, push the tempo, get on the ball, drop the motion from time to time. I know that you want to help Lamar read and see, but push the pace and the defense will show what it's doing. That's what teams do to the Ravens to take the blitzes away. They go tempo and the defense has to play honest. That's how it works. You can't get exotic calls in and communicate a bunch when teams are pushing the tempo. So I would love to see some tempo, especially in a game where you don't have your running backs to rely on. The ground game might not be there from the Ravens ahead of the Steelers. Let's let Lamar go push the pace and get the ball out quickly and see what they can do. And I mentioned Deshaun Watson. It's the same thing. Their line does not protect Deshaun Watson crazy well. They've been better since they got Tunsil, but they keep it simple. The Texans are struggling, but I am just very encouraged by some of those things. And I think that Lamar can shoulder more responsibility with more time pre-snap.
Who is Larry Davis? Who is the leader in the locker room on O that will tell Brown to put his money where his mouth is? This might be a little bit of a sports talk radio question and take, but just in the interest of answering your question, I would go Des Bryant. If not with his words, then with his play. All right, dude, if you want to get in a funk and get down on yourself after you had a little Twitter tantrum and you're playing poorly, that's fine. I just came back from a 2-year absence after tearing my Achilles and having all these other injuries and all this public shit and being depressed, and I'm making plays in the game. You can too.
Spineless, it feels like. I mean, maybe Mark Ingram. I don't know. But Mark Ingram's been in a funk. He feels a little discontent, and some of the things that he's, whatever. We speculate about this stuff, so who knows what's actually going on. But so it's got to be Lamar, man. It's got to be Lamar. It's got to be the quarterback. Dez, yeah. I think that Dez is kind of Dez is like the poor kids in Kenya that the moms always say, they're starving kids in Kenya. That classic 90s sitcom mom thing, there's kids starving in Africa and you're worried about so-and-so. Des Bryant is a perfect example of that. You're right. You look at Dez and he's just happy to be there. He wants to win. He is going to be positive, and he wasn't always like that his career. And I think he's a perfect example of someone that did cause issues like Hollywood. Hollywood can, well, actually, Hollywood hasn't caused any issues. So let me take that back. Hollywood hasn't caused issues, but has had issues that it feels like could brew, and, maybe took his situation for granted at times and wishes that didn't happen. So those are the kinds of guys you need. And why the fuck wasn't Dez just signed in the preseason?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I get that his conditioning is off or whatever, but he had nothing to lose by signing him to the active roster, and they'd be in a better spot right now if they had.
Are you more worried about your gunner than you are about your receiving core?
Evidently, yes. That's been pretty much their MO for the last 25 years, unfortunately, and it's costing them.
Yeah, well, I don't know who that's all on, but Dez, we had the famous throw-up story. And I was very non-committal. I tried to be non-committal on Dez because I don't know. I didn't see the workout. I don't see him, on the field. We see him on the field now, and maybe it took this long to get there, but he is the quintessential veteran that I've been speaking of a veteran player who has been there, done that, has the wise man mentality of, understanding that this isn't the end all be all week to week and week fucking 10 or 11 of the regular season, being happy, accepting your place and doing those kinds of things. And so who's gonna tell guys to man up and start playing ball? I don't know. I do not know what goes on in that locker room. It feels like it's kind of flat, and they just try to keep their heads down and remain positive. But eventually, you got to get pissed, man. You got to get unsettled at some point and stop accepting it. I think J.K. Dobbins, I don't know if he's going to go say something to someone, but he was pissed. He wanted the fucking rock.
As he should.
Go get the rock. What? Lamar last year, Seattle, the famous hell yeah coach, let's go for it. Like, that is what you need. That is the mentality that you need. You will need to want the ball. You need to want to win the game. All plays. You want to finish the block. You want your teammates to want the rock. You want everyone to want the rock. That is the mentality that wins on offense. You want the ball. You want to score. You want to win. Not worried about playing time or snaps or whatever. Like, I want to get the ball. I want to go in. I want to go make heads roll.
That's where I'm happy to see him giving the pregame speech in the huddle and like kind of becoming a little bit more of a vocal leader. It's good to see that. It's time to start getting in some guys' ass too. Like I've been saying that, going back to Boykin, like fucking light him up a little bit. Be like, all right, dude, like put up or shut up. And he obviously has not put up. So go to Hollywood and be like, hey, dude, like we're best buds. I'd prefer we have a long, prosperous career here together. Let's figure this shit out. Jonathan Evans, if you were the offensive coordinator, what would you be doing differently to jumpstart the offense in regards to personnel groupings, play calls, players, snaps, etc.?
Tempo, less substitutions. If guys get a first down, if there's back-to-back positive plays, let's say an 8-yard pass and a 7-yard run, and it's the same personnel, let them play 7 more plays until guys get tired. Because I think that getting in a rhythm, guys understanding what it feels like to execute and be on time is great. The concepts we've talked about, smash, scissors, all that stuff we've talked about on here. So continuing to do that and just play action on first down. Less substitutions, less time, push the tempo, play action on first down. Don't run Mark Ingram on first down. And
stop thinking so much. Like they're thinking so fucking much. Like I'm pretty taken by this quote from Trent Dilfer in I think the 2000 Ravens Super Bowl documentary where he said like they were struggling when he got inserted after replacing Tony Banks. And the week they really started to turn it on, he said, my mentality going into that game was we're not going to worry about like snaps and we're not going to worry about targets. Like I'm going to drop back. And if Shannon gets open first, Shannon's getting the football and I'm going to hand it off to Jamal 20 times. And then I'm going to drop back again. And then if Brandon gets open first, Brandon's getting the football. And that's that. It's like, I just simplify it a little bit. That's obviously very sports talk radio guy. Like, I could maybe dig a little bit deeper on how to do said things, which I think you're doing a good job of, but it just feels like everything is so labored and it just looks so much more difficult than it should.
Because they don't have time to actually think though. They don't get to the line quick enough where they can read the field, read leverage, understand, see maybe a late rotation or something and adjust their routes. Like they don't have enough time because they call in plays late, they get to the line late, and they're using motion to try and, get the coverage to tell itself. The running backs are doing too much in the pass game where they're motioning in, motioning out, not on the field enough, not able to develop a rhythm. They don't know where they're supposed to be. If the running back doesn't know where they're supposed to be, guess what? They're not getting the fucking ball.
Yep. J ×2. How do y'all feel about some of Lamar's runs on the read option runs? I feel as though there have been a lot of times where he should have handed it off. Yeah, he's been a little indecisive with it. I think he's been indecisive as a runner as well. Just kind of a weird year from him from a read option perspective. I think losing Nick Boyle the last game and a half has not helped in that regard.
Yeah, I think that the line in general makes him weary overall of some of that stuff. The speed option, I think we saw one in this game, and he, was hesitant to just kind of just get the ball out on the edge and do the damn thing, and ends up being a lost play. So I think he's had some good read option runs. It doesn't work on first down. He's averaging 3.3 yards a carry on first down. Teams know that the read option is coming on first down. It's the Ravens' bread and butter. Him and Ingram in the game, or Ingram in the game, whatever, a read option is coming. Dobbins in the gun. If Dobbins is in the gun and they're in like a spread, they're going to run a veer. Everyone knows that.
Some weird timing with the calls, like that 2nd and 11 speed option. I was like, come on, Greg.
Yeah, man, like call a quarterback power, call a quarterback sweep, call a quarterback bash. Like don't just cut the option out of it and let him go run.
Yeah,
so there's no free defender to read. That's your point. Take some of the thinking out of it. Call a quarterback designed run, not a option.
Z Hops 123 again. Also, do you think we are in danger of losing Hollywood to free agency after his contract since he isn't producing with us? I just kind of laughed at this one. Not at the person asking the question. Like, it's, I understand where the sentiment is coming from, but it's just like, these are the games where like the team builders really start to come out. Like, there are a lot of questions about the draft in here and who do we target in free agency? And it's like, I personally don't really like to operate that way too much as a fan or as an analyst. I kind of just want to like talk about this season, but yeah, I mean, like, as of right now, like, if you had to ask me to ink him to a long-term deal right now, I wouldn't do it, but that's why there's, another 2 years and then a 5th-year option on the deal. So we'll see, but yeah, it's not great.
Super far down the road, but at the same time, it really sucks seeing AJ Brown, who
that was my guy. I wanted AJ Brown 100%.
I wanted Metcalf. You wanted Brown. We both like both of them. We all like Deebo Samuel. All these guys.
I liked Hollywood too. I'm not going to sit here.
Hollywood's scorching, man. He gets open. He really does get open. Like I said, that he created separation and should have had a touchdown dropped in his lap, and that was on Lamar. And there's been quite a few instances of that, as well as some drops and just general funk going on. But to watch AJ Brown bowl through 4 Ravens, including your $100 million corner, your $40 million corner, your team captain type safety, and your first round linebacker, and then Hollywood Brown is just unable to give you anything after the catch. And it really takes a well-timed throw and him being open in order to still have negative results. It's like a lot has to go right for Hollywood Brown to have a good game. He has to have a lot of separation. The ball has to come out quick at the right time and hit him in stride, because he's not going to go up and get the ball, and he has to be beyond. He has to have beaten the defense over top. And at this point, it sucks. And I originally didn't understand. I do like Hollywood Brown, and again, I think he's a good player. He has great releases. He's had some struggles lately, but the Ravens had John Brown prior to drafting Hollywood, and it just felt like Lamar would do a little better. Lamar wasn't as accurate when he had John Brown. He still had some more mechanical issues that he's worked through. I think he's much more accurate now, but he didn't have a big athletic presence at wide receiver. And he had John Brown, who was a polished speed receiver. And him and John Brown really struggled to get on the same page. I don't think Lamar is good with the rhythm with some of that stuff. It's still working on it, clearly. And he can't just kind of fucking trust a guy to go make a play. He loves Mark Andrews. He loved Hayden Hurst. Seth Roberts is a pretty tall receiver. He seemed to have an okay connection with him. Like, things just have to be perfect for Hollywood to really feast. And I don't think Lamar is developed enough and accurate enough right now to really take advantage of Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of put a bow on it, like, there's plenty of time for him to turn around. And like, I like the kid, and I thought he was going to be really good this season.
If Dez is good, he's going to open up a lot for Hollywood.
Yeah, and like, I think I was wrong on that. I expected him to be a number 1 receiver. The whole idea of everything having to be perfect around him, I think decidedly makes it that he is not. But like, there's nothing wrong with having or using a first-round pick on a high-end number 2 receiver. And if they can make things work with him, then I'm all for it, man. And there's plenty of time for that to happen. So we don't have to quite be talking about that just yet.
Another part of it, just to finish before we get into the next one, is Lamar threw the ball 29 times, and it felt like he threw the ball a lot. He didn't. Yeah. Like, Cam Newton and Deshaun Watson, I keep bringing up this game because I just covered it today. 37 pass attempts, 44 pass attempts, 360 yards, 380 yards.
It's like standard for the modern NFL, like 30.
Yeah, so it's tough. Miles Boykin gave really simple but strong insight into it. He said, when I make a mistake, I only get a couple chances because this is not a passing offense. So if I make a mistake, the ball's not coming back my way, and it's really amplified. So that's true. Hollywood gets, 5 targets, and it doesn't work out 3 of the times. He has 1 drop, and it's like, oh, well, he's not worth time. But guys look at the Steelers, man. They're doing well. Deontay Johnson, Juju, Claypool all get 10 targets a game, like 8, 9, 7, 11, 15, 14. Like, it's easier to have a good game and have fans feeling strong and you feeling strong about your performance. It's essentially like pinch hitting in the 7th inning and maybe getting 2 at bats instead of, being in the starting lineup and playing 9 innings.
Let's not spend too much time on this one, but TP asks, do we suck? I will just say No, they don't. I think they are a good to very good team at their best that is kind of being derailed by injuries and some weird circumstances right now, and they're playing mediocre because of it, and they're on the wrong end of a lot of close games that I think they typically, or maybe not typically, but more often could wind up on the right end of. I mean, they could have won these last 2 games, I think, very realistically.
Yeah, they don't get, they're not getting blown out. The only game they lost by 2 scores was the Chiefs, and they made a pretty valiant comeback in the fourth quarter of that game. And then, Mahomes had his way with them again when he needed to. But I don't think this is a bad team. I think that people overreact on a week-to-week basis. I think that this is a team that I've broken it all down about how I feel about the offense and everything. But until I see them lose, and people want to say that the Patriots are some inferior team, like they played in a fucking monsoon in New England at night. And
I think they would have won if Matt Skura did not completely bone them with his snaps.
You would think that would be there's a pretty good probability of that happening. If the snaps were all normal, maybe a couple or a little awry, that would have been fine. But rolling the ball back and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't think the Patriots are some awful team. I think that they have a really well orchestrated offense that ends up seeing Brandon Williams and Calais Campbell go out. They're injured. They are inexperienced, and they're a little spineless. So I think they're, an above average team right now as the injuries stand. They're also in the middle of a very difficult stretch, playing good defenses. I mean, the Titans aren't a good defense, but I mean, they're opportunistic. They force a lot of turnovers. They play the Colts. They play the Steelers. The Eagles were leading their division and clawing out of that. That's not a good team, but they're in a tough stretch of football right now. When the schedule came out, you saw Eagles, Steelers, Colts, Patriots, Titans, and Steelers. That's the tough part of the schedule.
It's the horrible horseshoe in the middle of the schedule. You got to get through it.
They basically dropped one more game than I thought they would. I thought they would go through the 4-game stretch of Indy, Tennessee, and the Cowboys looked like a tough game too when the schedule came out.
Yeah.
So it was
since he just lost
Burrow.
So yeah, it's
Yeah, so it looked like I tweeted it a couple weeks ago. I said it on this podcast. 2-2 through this past 4-game stretch would have been a good outcome in my opinion, and they ended up 1-3. So they've got the Browns and the Steelers, and then a bunch of inferior competition to extents. And at the end of the day, you can't just go say, people all want to say, the Ravens are going to lose to this team. They're going to beat that team. For all we know, Daniel Jones won't play against the Ravens, or Lamar and RG3 both get COVID against the Cowboys, or it's fucking snowing and the wind is 100 miles an hour and no one can hold on to the football in Cleveland. And whatever, it's week to week, it's matchup. Everybody thought the Vikings would roll on the Cowboys. That didn't happen. The Jaguars put up a fight against the Steelers, the Cowboys put up. I guess the Cowboys are secretly frisky, so maybe we shouldn't look at that one like a cakewalk.
Garrett Gilbert action out there. Andy Dalton also looking, a little frisky at times, but he's had getting concussed and getting COVID at the same time has to be kind of a tough experience, as he laid out.
Of course, and he, comes to that team and doesn't quite get any first team snaps, and then is throttled in with a very bad offensive line. Whatever. Cowboys are what they are, but any given Sunday, man, and that's why I'm a little bit confident in this Ravens team, because they're not losing to good teams by a lot, and they're not losing to bad teams. They're not losing to the bottom feeders. So if they lose to the bottom feeders, then I will say this is a, average to below average, bad team. But who knows, man? Maybe they finish fucking 8-8. Who knows what's going to happen the rest of the year at this point with the injuries, with everything that has gone the way it is. Who knows? The NFL is full of parity this year, aside from the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
God, just watching the Chiefs last night, and I tweeted out the no country. You can't stop what's coming. That's just what it is. They're just fucking Anton Chigurh, and they're just going to win every.
They're like the war. They really remind me of the Warriors. I've liked to compare Patrick Mahomes to Steph Curry, the way he's kind of changed the 3-point shot, changed the quarterback prototype a little bit, and now everybody wants Trey Lance and Jordan Love and those kind of guys. But the Chiefs are pretty inevitable right now.
Why can't Jason Renner? Why can't the Ravens seem to get anyone open downfield? Is it poor route running, poor route combinations, bad play fakes? I think it's all of them. I think, like you mentioned, tempo is kind of an issue. Timing is an issue. I think offensive line, and their protections can be an issue at times. But even when they dial up the deep shots, Lamar's not hitting them, frankly. So,
yep. That offensive line into that as well. Fluker played okay, I guess. He was not as bad as I expected. Will Holden, I haven't seen a ton of what Will Holden did. I wasn't really focused on him, but
Cole said he
were saying they weren't awful. So we'll see. It's a slew of things, man. You pick one, basically.
Dejan offseason needs in order. I'm looking at offensive line 1. I really want them to.
That's the only thing I'm concerned about, to be honest.
Yeah, like everyone's freaking out about pass catchers, and understandably so. But like this pass catching group, it's pretty much the same as what they had last season. Sans Hurst, and obviously Boyle being out injured now. Like they were producing last season, they were fine, and like they could definitely go and get a top tier option, and that would excite everyone, and I would love it. But like, it's offensive line for me, man, and it's not particularly close as the biggest need.
Yeah, I think offensive line. I think some actual high, athleticism and IQ guys that you can do some different things with. Guys that are good in space, allow you to do some things and protect Lamar. And I think he calms back down. And I do think Lamar has done a good job of kind of stopping that press frantic play a little bit. He took his time in the pocket if he had time at times, and things didn't always work out. But offensive line is number one. And to me, it's just like, don't stop loading up on offensive linemen, cornerbacks, and DBs and pass catchers. Just keep those coming. DBs, pass catchers, offensive line, the premium positions at this point, and you'll be in good shape with depth at least. And guys might not pan out, but it's better than having to sign guys off the street to play your most important positions.
So you basically just answered Jonathan Evans' next question. At this rate, if they even make the playoffs, they'll be one and done once again. What moves or personnel staff have to be priorities headed into next season? You basically just answered that. So he also followed up.
Get some veterans on offense, man. Get some fucking veteran offensive linemen if you can, that are not like
and let's end
borderline fringe guys.
And let's end the young, cheap offense drinking game. He also followed up with best Thanksgiving side, worst Thanksgiving side. I like that. I like a little non-football question here in this week of thanks. Best for me is definitely stuffing. Close second is going to be Brussels sprouts. You get a little bacon in there. We're living, LIVIN, and also a big mashed potatoes guy. Worst, a lot of people like macaroni and cheese. I am not a big mac and cheese guy, and the cranberry sauce or whatever it is. Some people like that. I'm not a fan.
I semi-invented a dish about 3 years ago for Friendsgiving. And this is, if you want to impress people, this is easy. I'll try and keep it short. Get a big serving tray tin, like an aluminum one first. Get about 2 pounds of Brussels sprouts if it's a lot of people, 1 pound if it's not a lot of people. You stick them in a big pan, throw some oil in there, steam them, toss in some bacon, toss in some feta cheese. Take that pan, put it in the oven on bake with the bacon and the feta cheese in it. Take that, put it in the aluminum tin, get some balsamic drizzle, like some actual balsamic, and drizzle that over top. Not vinegar. What is this stuff called? Like the syrupy kind. Vinaigrette. Get the syrupy balsamic. I can't think of the right word. Drizzle that over top of it. Mwah. Some nice soft Brussels sprouts that absorb a bunch of flavor from the bacon and the feta. And that's my number one.
I love
mashed potatoes and gravy. Big mashed potatoes and gravy guy.
I love me some Brussies, man. Ashwin, has Ben Powers done enough to keep the guard job? I really don't know.
I don't know either. I haven't watched the All 22 is not yet. I would think he finally cracked the lineup. Let's give him a couple weeks and see what he can do.
Sure. Brandon Davis, what do you think about getting Justice Hill involved on pass plays from the backfield to open up the pass game more? I'm kind of all for it, and it seems like it's going to need to happen this week. And it's
about to happen. So
not showing heart. That was a guy that was playing with his fucking hair on fire.
Holy shit on special teams. Yeah, great call. I forgot about that. He was flexing on people, lighting dudes up on kick coverage, and that shit transfers over onto the offensive side of the football. Him and J.K. Dobbins are hungry. J.K.'s not going to be able to play this week, which is just insane. But let's get Justice involved. See if he wants to go wreck some heads.
Sure. What wide receiver should the Ravens target next year? Allen Robinson is my pick. I guess he's probably the ideal guy, but I don't know. Like maybe like Alshon Jeffrey comes available. You can get him for a little cheap.
I like Rashad Bateman draft wise. I like. They're probably not going to get Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase, but there's a lot of guys. Rondale Moore, ton of dudes in the draft. There's a bunch coming out again. Wide receiver is his hot position, and the Ravens tried to play the stock market on it and be like, yeah, we got guys we can draft in the 3rd and 6th round. But now you see Jerry Jeudy. I just had a bad stutter. Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Chase Claypool, all these guys fucking balling out, and you've got Duvernay, who's fast and look like he might be a good NFL player eventually, but Justin Jefferson is just routing guys into oblivion and playing like a veteran. So it's seems like they kind of missed out on the cream of the crop, thinking that there was more crop.
Just get it over with and just draft a fucking LSU wide receiver. Those guys are badass. Evan saw a lot of talk about play action. Is it better or worse to run on certain downs? When is running it good versus when is running it bad? Running it on first down is definitely bad. If you look at the numbers, you definitely do want to do play action there, as we've talked about. But I think it's just all about getting yourself set up on 2nd and 3rd to convert some of these short ones and not getting behind in the count, as we've talked about, which is something they were very good at last season. And it's much easier to do when you have a badass kind of shit-kicking offensive line, which they are not right now, to kind of chunk yards on the ground for you. They don't have it, but like running on first down and trying to make this thing happen with Ingram, it's just not going to get it done.
You want to run on 3rd and short. It's a high conversion rate. And you do not want to run on first down because 2nd and long erases the threat of the run. So you want to throw the ball on first down, run the ball, or throw the ball on 2nd down, and ideally run the ball on 3rd and short. And that is the old formula.
Brian Doss, what positions should be our number 1 priority in the draft next year? That's always kind of a weird one because you're talking about a period of time where you're supposed to be supplementing the roster after free agency. So it's going to depend on what they do in free agency, but I'm all about O-line. So hopefully
O-line, DB, pass rusher, and wide receiver. Draft premium positions high. And unless there's no one that you like, if there's no one that you like, then go to the well of the other stuff. I mean, you can make an argument for tight end. That wouldn't piss me off if they got their paws on somebody, Jake Ferguson out of Wisconsin. I think he actually just got injured really badly with his shoulder.
He do fall sometimes, and like it's probably not going to be a guy like the dude from Florida, but like some of the other guys might.
Yeah, there's a big class of tight ends. Last year was pretty thin. Just draft the premium positions early and go find those,
hire
ancillary things late.
Hire Vasily Lurikos as your draft strategist and just have him lay out a plan for you. Chris Flash, honestly, I honestly think there are 52 Ravens players on this team that can catch better than our number 1 wide receiver, in quotes, pathetic. Yeah, he might be right.
He's in a funk. It sucks to watch. It really sucks to watch. Like, he drops the ball, then Lamar's late, and he can't make a play on the ball. And Des Bryant, coming off of a torn Achilles, is like getting more involved in working with Lamar and stuff. And you got to just feed high. I mean, I want to see against the Steelers, I want to see 35-plus pass attempts. I want to see play action, some 25 rushing attempts, whatever. Feed Gus 10 carries, 15 carries. Justice Hill give him 5-10 carries. Lamar carry the ball a few times, but get this pass game going. Get guys involved, man. Get them involved. Get those chunk plays down the field. Don't hesitate. Let that thing fly. And Hollywood, I mean, if he can't go get the ball, he can't play. He can't play. He can't be a big-time player. If you can't go get the ball and take it away and my ball on dudes, if you can't dunk on someone at all, in your personality and your attitude, then what the hell? He wants to flash hands late and drag his toes and that stuff, but it's like that'd be fantastic. In the words of I don't even remember what player said it. Maybe Myles Garrett, some Browns player, I think. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not, Russell Wilson in terms of dropping those teardrops in the bucket.
Sheldon Richardson is who you're thinking of.
Sheldon Richardson, yeah. He's not dropping the teardrops in the bucket, and it's like that's all that Hollywood – like his style of play is toe drag swag. That's him. He wants to be finesse and work the corners and wants nothing to do with the middle of the field. And they started trying to feed him some deep balls, and he got fucking bodied. So it's tough. I think he needs to go in the slot. I think he really needs to go in the slot, have Dez and Boykin be your main, perimeter guys. Get Andrews out there a little bit too. Get some more stack stuff going for Hollywood, and we'll let him work over the middle of the field deep because he gets pinned to the boundary, and I think he's quick. You want those quick little guys in the slot. Hunter Renfrow can't be much bigger than Hollywood. Those kind of guys, the prototypical slot. Hollywood would get separation and stuff. It's just like whenever he gets separation, he doesn't get the ball, or something's fucked up, and when he gets the ball, he can't separate late and has had a couple drops. How many drops does he have on the year? 4. Like, he doesn't have bad hands. He had a couple drops. Dez Bryant was like, people all think Dez has some amazing hands. He's like one of the all-time NFL drops leaders. He consistently drops 7+ balls a year, which is very funny.
Have that like weird, like spectacular catch trait, if you want to call it that, are also like responsible for just dropping layups because like it's just their mentality to just always kind of have that flair for the dramatic.
Yeah. I would love somebody like a Robert Woods. I guess Willie Snead is kind of that way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he had a nice little route and catch and run. Maybe get him involved a little bit, but you're talking about a 6th-round rookie, so it's like I think people get a little too crazy about trying to get him involved this season. But he's showing some stuff.
I really like Prochet. I've always really liked Prochet. I like what he's able to do with clean footwork. He doesn't appear to be off rhythm ever. Like, even in the punt return game, I think getting him integrated that way has been great. He hasn't had any huge returns, but he just kind of doesn't get out of control or anything. And the limited routes that he has run, I've loved what I've seen. So
I don't know if I've already comparison, but he kind of reminds me of like a young, like pre-alpha version of Edelman, like in 2010. Like, he's just like, he doesn't have the size, he doesn't quite have the athleticism, but he just has the traits. He's got the good hands, and it seems like he has an understanding.
He has good feet. He has efficient footwork. That's most important to get separation. And he changes pace. He's not a burner, but he's able to vary speed and accelerate and decelerate to sell stuff. And his breaks are like, he ran a whip route. He got wide open and caught the ball for his first career NFL catch. There was not a wasted step. There was no false step. There was no wasted motion. He was efficient. He's a very efficient route runner, and that is good stuff.
Hugh Nunn, if Roman is gone after this season, who would be one pro and one college coach you'd think to hire? Skeptigoat chimes in below with anyone on offense affiliated with Eric Bieniemy. It could be the guy who gets his donuts, or James Urban, or Derek McGee, the OC from Louisville, who won Lamar the Heisman. I'm kind of not really in on like the Bobby Petrino like line of thinking.
Yeah, definitely not. You want to move forward.
Yeah, I'm not into that. So maybe somebody, San Francisco, the guy who mentioned Mike McDaniel, I think his name was, like, that could be good. But if you're trying to develop the pass game, you should want to go with like a passing game guy. So like we mentioned, maybe somebody from that Panthers staff working under Joe Brady there. It's kind of funny to say that because Joe Brady's like 31, I'm pretty sure. Maybe somebody from LA, that Sean McVay system.
There's Mike LaFleur out in San Francisco under Shanahan. I like the Shanahan tree.
I don't know if Shane Waldron is the Rams OC right now, but he's a guy who's kind of been a hot name a little bit as far as a potential OC. So there's guys.
Yeah, I like LaFleur out in San Francisco. Waldron, I think, is the quarterbacks coach for the Rams. I would like some of those types of dudes that have been in those high-level passing offenses. There's Kafka under Bieniemy, who's their passing game coordinator. Joe Brady is obviously, I don't think he takes a lateral move. He is going to be a head coach in the next 2 years. A lot of people like Matt Weiss has been coming up. The Ravens running backs coach has been coming up in like offensive coordinator talks for other teams. I don't know why necessarily, but he has been. You mentioned Mike McDaniel. Someone mentioned Mike McDaniel earlier. I agree with you there. Maybe we're wrong, but I like the Shanahan tree, but I'd rather take the passing side because his passing offense is
it's not that it's bad, but it's more
around
the run. So like you kind of want to move forward from that. Josh Elliott, I know Ravens fans are going to be upset after this L, rightfully so. But if we get a couple guys from injury next week, I think we go undefeated the rest of the season. I love the optimism.
Sure. If guys want to start getting like
I think this was pre the 2 COVID things and Brandon Williams definitely being out. So like, a little bit of a qualifier there, but I don't agree, but I do like the optimism. And I don't know. I think people were getting a little too sky is falling yesterday because, first time in a long time they've lost 2 games in a row, and it was to a team that you wanted to beat really bad. Let's just be honest. That was an emotional game. It got even more emotional than people were expecting with the logo thing, and they lost in a heartbreaking fashion. So it was a tough one in a lot of different ways.
They need to just they need a couple games where it's like a slugfest back and forth, and they stick the knife in the heart and win the game. That is what is missing from this team. It is the killer instinct is missing, and I honestly see it out of Lamar a lot. I think he has that instinct late in games. I hate the play call in overtime, but he marched them down the field after the touchdown. And it just was like, of course, there's some nervous, rattled, baby back bitch, like early snap, false start, and it just shoots you in the foot. The offensive penalties are killer, man. They are killer. Defensive penalties, other than pass interference, don't matter that much. Defensive penalties also, they kind of indicate that you were doing a good job. You were in tight coverage, not just getting burnt. You got to the passer and roughed him. You didn't just get blocked, stuff like that. But the offensive penalties, I talked about what getting hit while you're throwing or what taking a sack does, and that's what an offensive penalty is. An offensive penalty is a sack. It kills drives, and the likelihood of getting first downs or scoring plummets from offensive penalties. So they continue to have those. I mean, Mark Andrews, 3rd in inches and false start, 3rd and 6.
Block, and it's my whole block. And I got a little bitchy on Twitter yesterday, and maybe a little bit too much so. But I think I was mostly in the right with these officials that they're going to get shit wrong. They're going to get a lot of shit wrong, and they got a roughing the passer call wrong, and that put 3 points on the boards for the Titans, which wound up making sense. But to the overall point, they're going to call bullshit holding, and they're going to call bullshit whatever offensive stuff. But if you're this offense right now, you cannot afford to continue to shoot yourself in the foot with pre-snap, stupid penalties, early snaps, false starts, all this shit, and it's just happening over and over again. Illegal formation, we've been calling that out. It's 1 step forward and it's 2 steps back, and it's happening in critical situations, and it is killing them in games, and it killed them yesterday. So the officials suck, and they're for shit, and something needs to change. That's all I'm going to say on it. But I'm not going to get on them for calling penalties that are pre-snap that the Ravens themselves are shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, those have nothing to do with the refs. Those are obvious. It's false start. It's illegal formation. It's all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to beat it to death. It's a result of not having enough time at the line to be settled and calm and execute and make adjustments and think about your assignment. And if you just push the tempo, get some no huddle going, that was what I was worried about this offseason. I wanted no huddle. I wanted to see the 2-minute drills. I wanted to see them do it, and they're right there. They can march down the field, but it's it's always an issue. There's always a misstep. Like you said, there's always a step back. So it's been difficult to watch, and I think it can be solved by dropping some of the substitutions, keeping guys on the field for a while, and letting them go play and get into the line.
Julian, is this the time we find Is this the time we finally see Dobbins at number 1, Gus number 2, and Ingram number 3, and some more Dez moving forward? Also, Ravens need to keep Fluker on the bench until he becomes the last dressed OL. So obviously this came in pre-COVID, so we're not going to see JK this week, but I think he has earned that number 1 spot. Dez moving forward, yeah, more Dez for sure. And as far as Fluker goes, like, what the fuck are you going to do? Like, he's all you got right now. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's it is what it is. The offensive line just is what it is, man.
It is what it is. It's not what
I got into the minutia of they should have Skura here and Bozeman here and blah blah blah. It's whatever. Really, is just whatever at this point. Stick some guys out there, let them get some modicum of continuity and cohesion and chemistry together as they're moving forward, and maybe some good things will happen. But they're not it's not going to be a good group. I mean, they have it's undrafted. I guess Fluker is a first-round pick, but he has been cut multiple times, bounced around. He's not, high-quality offensive lineman. Bozeman, 6th-round pick. Skura was undrafted. Ben Powers, 4th-round pick. Like, they don't have pedigree guys. Orlando Brown is that kind of. And he is. He was an All-American at Oklahoma, and he is the pedigree guy, but they just need to get the ball out quick and do what they can to give that offensive line an advantage and use some misdirection and things like that. But we'll see.
Ben Walks, movie recommendation to take my mind off football. Any movie to help take his mind off football.
Show-wise, I've been a big show guy the last couple of years because of streaming services. Right now, I mean, Queen's Gambit I watched, and I wish that I got doinked on the head with a steel pole so that I could rewatch it without remembering it. I really enjoyed Queen's Gambit.
Have you been playing any chess? I downloaded an app because of it. I haven't finished.
I play chess and iMessage with my friends. Sometimes I'm doing that for a while.
Yeah, I got this 3D chess games for like $2 on the App Store. It's really fun. So I haven't finished that yet, but that is a good recommendation show wise. The Crown I've been watching, Netflix original. Pretty interesting. It's it's not for everyone probably, and like for our audience, I might not be totally confident that like you guys would totally enjoy it. I know I kind of do, but I like the bougie stuff and the royal situation. It's just kind of comforting to me. I enjoy it. So The Crown's pretty good. And yeah, movie. I haven't really. It's funny because I host a movie podcast, so like I kind of have to watch movies week to week. So I'll tell you what. Watch. It's Thanksgiving. Watch Planes, Cranes, and Automobiles.
Yes.
Tune into That's a Bingo podcast on, I believe, Wednesday, where a friend of the show, Matt Pine, and I on the other podcast will be chopping up Planes, Cranes, and Automobiles. It's a perfect movie for this week, and it will take your mind off football.
There you go. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is a hilarious movie. John Candy, Steve Martin, in their prime.
Oh, yeah. Naturally, Cats, what is the best alcohol to drink during a football game? And I went back and forth with him a little bit on this. He does not like beer. He's new to kind of drinking to begin with, so he doesn't want to do like whiskey. So it seems like he's kind of looking for a little bit of a seltzer recommendation, which is interesting this time of year.
Seltzer? I mean, if you don't like beer, I would recommend maybe some pumpkin IPAs.
I said that, and he said, yeah, no, that's a no-go.
Okay, let's try. I like Vizzy. If you're not a big drinking guy, try Vizzy because Vizzy has antioxidants in it. And what'd you say?
And vitamin C.
Yeah, it has antioxidants and vitamin C, so it's not all bad. I like the taste of them. I enjoyed some on the beach this past summer, and they make you feel a little better because you're getting some good sustenance in there as well. And that's really how all alcohol should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, we were big White Claw when we first started doing this.
I still like White Claw.
Yeah, I still like it, but I think Vizzy has kind of become my favorite seltzer. I think
for those reasons, you feel good about yourself. You're like, oh, I'm not just getting drunk. I'm doing something.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's a great marketing campaign. I don't know like how much antioxidants and vitamin C are in there, but there's enough that they can say it. Zeech Batman, is it okay to be fed up with Roman at this point? All this talk of fixing things for the last couple weeks. And quote-unquote new identity this week, and it's the same shit. Ingram starting, first down runs, illegal formations. It's totally fine to be fed up with him. I just wouldn't expect any drastic move to be made right now as far as his employment, but he does need to mix things up a little bit.
I'm a little bit more like this is difficult because I think Lamar did play well. But there are 3 throws on the board that were left on the board that, could have won that game. There's the Andrews one, the Hollywood one that we mentioned on where he kind of splits down the seam, and the other Andrews one. There was 3 throws left on the board there, and those are big plays. I'm very frustrated with the overtime calls. Those did not rub me the right way. It was no sauce. There was no sauce involved, and the Titans have a bread and butter kind of play action into run, into play action into run combination and doing their thing, but the Ravens don't have Titans have like a 4-play variation essentially. And it's almost like you're playing Madden and you give the same look in a lot of different ways, and it's a guessing game. And they execute well. And I just think a lot of it does boil down to execution and trusting the assignments. Roman did shit the bed in overtime, I think. I don't think he's been bad since that second half in Indy. I don't think that it's been, the opportunities have been there and the execution has not.
It's like we can't forget the fact that losing Ronnie Stanley completely changed the dynamic of the offensive line and in turn the offense. And I don't want to be injury guy and blame it all on one thing, but that is a massive factor.
And it compounds Yanda. So now it's you're down 2 all-pro offensive linemen from where you were. And
yeah. And I don't even want to bring the Yanda thing into it because they had a chance to replace him and they opted not to. And that's fine. You're not even going to replace.
You're not going to replace him though. So it's still, you're basically starting behind the 8 ball, and then you end up scratching essentially by having Ronnie Stanley go down. So you lose a lot of your identity when you have 2 all-pro offensive linemen go down. Look at the fucking Cowboys.
Yeah, and then Boyle, he's been out the last game and a half, like I mentioned. So it's, we can't, some of it has to go into the players execution-wise, and there is injury issues. So, if we're going to, do the whole, big trust dancing thing, when, they're firebombing teams and going 14-2, which Roman was a part of, then you got to handle him at his worst here a little bit when he doesn't have as much stuff to work with. Let's just, he deserves some criticism, obviously, but let's just all calm down. And I don't expect the Ravens to make any drastic moves. So just kind of settle in and hope that he does improve.
They've been leaving points on the board, man. The throws are there. The opportunities are there. Guys are dropping passes. Lamar is late on throws. He's drawn it up. He schemed Andrews up into the end zone.
Yep.
And Lamar had a beautiful throw, and there was a chance for a couple more. And a lot of it goes on to Lamar, man. He's not elevating. He is not playing there hasn't been an elite game out of him. There hasn't been a great game out of him since week 1. I mean,
yeah, and all the talk.
It's been up and down. It's been some mediocre games, some good games, some okay games. But at the end of the day, guys like Aaron Rodgers are going to fucking get it done a lot of the time. And Lamar just hasn't. He hasn't elevated above.
And it's I don't think he's ever going to be a very bad quarterback, but it's are you in the Aaron Rodgers class or are you in let's say the Ryan Tannehill class, who I don't want to come at Ryan Tannehill too hard.
The Stafford class, the guys that, make plays and have good games and bad games a lot and are up and down. And I think that, Lamar is not rising above this shit. And I just keep thinking about him and Deshaun Watson. And I think that Deshaun Watson is at a point in his career right now. I don't know about the team necessarily, but I'm talking about Watson's play. Last year, Watson was on a team that won some games, had some bad games, was up and down, taking too much time to get the ball out, taking some sacks, and took a lot of lumps early this year, kind of down and out. And I can the last couple of weeks, I've just seen Watson kind of, it's starting to click. The check downs, the minutia of playing quarterback, the low-hanging fruit, not making yourself have to work too hard. And I think that Lamar is in that up and down pendulum swing right now. And it is hopefully going to result in some elite games in the next couple of weeks. But if it doesn't, then he has a lot to work on this offseason, and people are going to talk their shit and whatever, and they have every right to. Same way that people have the right to support him. So it's whatever. If your opinion is your opinion, but at the end of the day, if he's not winning games and making plays and getting guys open and, being smart with the ball a lot of the time, then it's not going to be pretty. We don't love PFF grades, but we like them. And Watson has been getting consistently good grades over the last like 2 months. He's consistently playing better than his team. And I don't think you can say that Lamar is like playing at a level where it's like, oh, like, damn, like they really let Lamar down. Like a couple times, yeah, those happen throughout the game, but Lamar's let guys down too. So
there have been a lot of tweets like in the Patriots game and in this past week. Like I've seen tweets like, oh man, Lamar Jackson's just playing such an incredible game and he's getting let down. It's like, are we watching the same game? Like I love the kid, but he's not playing up to his potential right now. And it's not that he's like terrible, but
there's tons of excuses to make. But at the same time, how many there's a time for excuses. Excuses can be made in a game, but you can't just continuously chalk everything up over and over again when you're the starting quarterback, the face of the franchise guy, cover Madden, all that shit, and you're not beating dudes down. There hasn't been a real beat down.
Yeah, and I defended Joe Flacco long after the point that he deserved it. And I'm getting on Lamar a little bit here because I think he has potential to be much better than Flacco ever was here. So, and I believe he will be, but it's a rough stretch right now. Moving on, Garnett's got jokes. Will the Browns make the playoffs over us? If I had to say gut feeling right now, I think they both make it.
Yeah, I think there's some frauds in the AFC. The Ravens could be one of them, sure, but I think there's some frauds. The Browns don't have Garrett. Their offensive line's intact. Their offensive line's kicking ass, and to me, that's the shit that wins. Is stout offensive line play.
I'm not in on the whole like Browns are a joke this year. Like I picked them to make the playoffs. They have a solid roster. What I think is a pretty good coaching staff. Like I know their last 25 years of existence is kind of a joke, but like there's no reason why they shouldn't win 10 games this year. So like we can all like say that it's this catastrophic thing if the Browns finish better than the Ravens, but like they've got the horses.
They've had injury problems too, and their 5 offensive linemen are intact. And to me, the biggest thing is taking care of the football, having your offensive line in December. Their starting 5 is back intact, and they've been able to win some close games. We'll see if they, people like to talk about the signature win. I don't think they've had that yet, but the Ravens have them coming down the pipe. And what? Do the Ravens have Steelers, Cowboys, Browns? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think it goes Steelers, Cowboys home prime time, and then at Browns Monday night, maybe. Let's see.
Yeah, I think that's it. Monday or Sunday night. So that's going to be a tough one. And I'll tell you, Myles Garrett is out right now with he's in COVID protocol, so he's going to be missing. But I'll tell you what, Myles Garrett is going to be chomping at the bit to play a game against the Ravens without Ronnie Stanley, because Ronnie Stanley has stonewalled Myles Garrett a lot.
Yeah, so you've got Steelers this Thursday, obviously. Then it's a week until their next game, which is a Thursday game against the Cowboys. Then you get Monday. So it goes Thursday, December 3rd against Cowboys. Then it's Monday, December 14th at Browns. So they're going to have some time to get ready for that one.
Garnett says they currently have everything that the Ravens don't have. Have to respect Cleveland. I don't know if that's true. Like their defense at its best is not an elite unit.
Yeah, I don't.
They do have a defensive MVP kind of guy, but Ward has been banged up. Sendejo is one of the biggest liabilities at safety in the entire NFL. And I don't think they're like, what do they have? Jarvis Landry? That's not,
Baker
Mayfield's out.
So he's yet to put together like a complete good season wire to wire, and Lamar Jackson has. Like Baker Mayfield has been.
Baker had a good rookie year. He had a pretty good rookie year.
Yeah, but he was slow to get started, and he wasn't even starting to begin with. But like he was literally earlier this year by people who I respect that know what they're talking about were like, they can't sign this guy to another contract. And like part of that was team success, but like, I don't know. Like if I had to bet on one QB, like I'm taking our guy. And okay, Garnett says I'm talking about being healthy and having a strong running game. Yeah, I mean that's fine. Like they're healthier. Like you can't really do much about that. Running game, yeah. I mean they invested a lot in that offensive line, which was a good move. It's working out for them. The Ravens didn't totally do that, and it's hurting them a little bit, but they invested in other spots. Last one here. Chris Lehman on to Pittsburgh. Kind of weird, but I feel a little more confident they pull out a win than headed into this one yesterday. Qualify with didn't know the Dobbins Ingram COVID situation. Anyways, if you guys could interview any past or present Raven, who would it be?
Ray Lewis. I I could see this game getting out of hand for the Ravens just due to the COVID stuff now on top of it and whatever, but it's your divisional opponent. And I think TJ Watt is going to be a problem, but I think they'll trade some shots, man. I think they'll trade some shots. I think it'll be
much crazier things have happened than them keeping it close on Thursday. I don't expect that to happen. I'm probably not going to pick that to happen, but it's stranger things have happened.
I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, for that answer, kind of already got my guy over the summer in Ed, which was sick. But so Ed would be my all-time guy who we already got. I would go a little sit down for an hour with Justin Tucker, a couple beers, in-person interview. That would be my answer.
I like Ray. I love Anquan Bolden.
He'd be good.
I would love Haloti Nada. Sizzle, too. I love Sizzle.
Sizzle, yes. Sizzle would be fun. I'd want to get him in the right environment. I wouldn't want that to be a phone. I'd want him to be in person as well.
Willis McGahee would be fun.
You're a big Willis guy. I saw you tweeting about it.
Big Willis guy. I loved when they got Willis McGahee. I was pumped. Who else they got? Who else do I love?
I mean, Shannon would be sick.
Shea would be sweet. I'm trying to think of who my sneaky guy that I love is.
I'd want to talk to Joe, honestly. If you could, he just gave a great interview over this past weekend. That was really interesting. I forget, might have been the New York Post or something, but sit down with Joe in a candid environment and just have a chat with him about all the shit that he got in his career and the Super Bowl win. That'll be fun.
Yeah, once he's done, he'll probably open up a little more on that stuff too, even more so. He's opened up the last couple of years.
Starting to. I think he would be a fun interview.
J.O., Jonathan Ogden, that'd be a fun one. Maybe Kelly Gregg or Edwin Mulitalo. That was my guy back in the day.
Okay. That's a good roster of guys we just named.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that is all we had for questions. You got anything else?
No, we'll be getting into it, writing some articles, throwing some stuff around, quick turnaround. We should hopefully have an interview with a guy that I have been a fan of for his football breakdown work of the last couple of years, hopefully. And coming in on Wednesday, and we'll try and get another episode out. This COVID news, the Ravens, we didn't even touch it. The Ravens signed Pierre Desir. They have him in COVID protocol right now, the cornerback, and guy's been up and down physical presence, but can never have too many NFL corners. So I'm glad to see them continue getting ahead of that as Jimmy Smith has had problems and, they've been forced to sign Tramon Williams. Anthony Averett should be coming back shortly. Tyree Phillips activated again. Interested to see what they do with him. Because it feels like they really like him. So he was the starting guard. So maybe Bozeman's time or Powers' time is limited. We shall see. Maybe you stick Powers over there at left guard. Maybe you slide Tyree Phillips back into the right guard spot and kick Bradley Bozeman over to center. Put Pat McCarr at right tackle. That would be my preference, probably.
Speaking of that, I think I'm making an appearance on a Steelers podcast tonight at 9. So I gotta get ready for that. But if you got nothing else, I can go ahead and get us out of here. Nice little hour and a half therapy session.
Nice little hour and a half. Appreciate you guys for listening and appreciate the mailbags and all that good stuff. So hopefully the Ravens are able to, be back to, it feels like they're getting to the point where they're backed into a corner and maybe they'll figure out how to get some spine and play with some attitude and end the game, stick the dagger in someone's heart and walk out victorious. We shall see. That is the Homer perspective, but looks like a tall task from an undefeated team. So
it certainly does.
Interesting week.
Yeah, it has been. So putting this out obviously a little bit belatedly after the scheduling stuff. So it's going to be a quick turnaround to the next episode, which I think we're going to be planning for Thursday morning. So kind of a little game day drop type thing for you to listen to while you're ignoring your relatives and their political discussions over Zoom or whatever is going to be going on for you. Maybe take a walk in the woods, bring some deviled lettuce and just fire it up if you're that type of person. But anyway, in the meantime, appreciate everyone tuning into this one. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe if you have not already. Leave us a rating and a 5-star review. Really appreciate you guys tuning in, and be sure to follow us on social media as well. Twitter for the show is @Podcast Beatdown. Got a lot of burn on that Twitter mailbag this week, which is nice. Let's keep that going as we move forward. And Like I said, that is at Podcast Beatdown. You can follow me at Jake Luke. That is Louque. Follow Spencer at Ravens4Dummies. That's the number 4. And follow the main account at Be More Beatdown. That is going to be tweeting out links to the website, which is BaltimoreBeatdown.com, where we're doing all our writing. Going to try to get the dossier out a little bit early this week, obviously, because they have that Thursday turnaround. So in the meantime, hope you guys check all of that out. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will talk to you again very soon.
Bye-bye.